My own son told me I was a burden. He said it to my face, over a cup of coffee I'd just brewed for him in my own kitchen. Mom, let's be realistic. The stairs, the upkeep, it's just not feasible anymore. We're worried. He didn't say, we love you. He said, we're worried. And in that moment, I knew the life I'd built was already, in his mind, a memory. If my story touched a nerve, if it feels familiar, please subscribe to the channel. You're not alone, and there are more stories like mine to share. The coffee cup shook in my hand, a tiny earthquake of porcelain that sloshed dark liquid onto the saucer. I focused on that, the brown stains spreading on the white china, because looking at my son's face, his earnest, concerned, traitorous face, was like staring into a sun that had suddenly gone cold. Daniel, my boy, the one I'd taught to ride a bike on the quiet cul-de-sac of our old neighborhood, the one who'd cried into my shoulder after his first heartbreak, he was now sitting across from me at my own walnut kitchen table, the one his father had built, telling me with polite firmness that my time here was up. It's just too much house for you, he continued, his voice the soft, reasonable tone he probably used in board meetings. Brittany and I have found this wonderful senior community, Sunrise Glen. It has activities, meals provided, no stairs. We've even put down a deposit. A deposit. The word was a bolt of ice straight to my core. They had moved from suggestion to transaction, and I hadn't even been consulted. I was the agenda item they'd already voted on. "This is my home, Daniel," I said, and my voice, to my surprise, didn't waver. It felt like someone else's, someone steely and old. "I've lived here for 42 years. Your father and I bought this land. We watched them pour the foundation." "I know, Mom," he reached across the table, but his hand stopped short of touching mine. An aborted gesture. "And that's the point. Dad's been gone for 5 years. You're rattling around in this big, empty place. The beach is beautiful, but it's isolated. What if you fall? What if you fall?" The ultimate weaponized concern. They cloak the eviction in the velvet of care, so any resistance looks like reckless, stubborn insanity. "I'm 71, not 91, I said, placing the cup down carefully. "I walk 2 miles on the sand every morning. I manage." He sighed, the sigh of a man burdened by a difficult but necessary task. "You manage, but you shouldn't have to. We want you to be safe. And to be honest, with the property values what they are, this place is a gold mine. Selling it would secure your future, take all the financial pressure off. The condo at Sunrise Glen is fully paid from the proceeds. You'd have a nest egg." The math of my dismantling was already calculated, my life, measured in square footage and curb appeal, converted into a nest egg and a 1-bedroom unit with a communal dining hall. The "we" he kept using was Brittany, his wife of 12 years. Brittany, who had never liked the rustic, weather-beaten charm of my coastal house, who preferred the sleek, granite and stainless steel aesthetic of their home in the city, an hour inland. Brittany, who found sand gritty and the sound of the surf disruptive. "I don't want to secure that future," I said quietly. "I want this one." He stood up, his chair scraping against the hardwood floor Frank had sanded and finished himself. The sound was a knife scrape on my nerves. "Just think about it, okay? We're coming for the weekend with the kids. We can all talk about it as a family, no decisions today." He leaned down and kissed my cheek. His cologne was unfamiliar, something sharp and expensive. "Love you, Mom." And then he was gone, the roar of his German SUV fading down the coastal road, leaving me with the echo of the ocean and the ruins of my certainty. I sat there until the coffee went cold. The house, my never-quiet house, creaked and groaned around me, the song of old wood in salt air. It was a living thing, this house. We'd built it section by section, Frank and I. The original cottage for our honeymoon, then the addition when Daniel was born, the sunroom for my painting, the widened porch for Frank's telescopes. Every nail held a memory, every window frame a view of our life. The thought of a stranger pricing it, judging it, painting over the colors I'd chosen with such care was a physical nausea. But it was the "we're worried" that kept ringing. It was the look in his eyes. Not love, but assessment, evaluation, like I was an underperforming asset in his portfolio. The weekend arrived with the chaotic energy of my grandchildren. Lily, 8, a whirlwind of sparkles and questions, and Noah, 5, a quiet boy who clung to my legs and then ran off to dig in the sand. Their presence was a balm and a torture. Every squeal of laughter from the beach below, every sandcastle we built, felt like a memory in reverse, a happy moment I was experiencing as a ghost, already gone from this place. Brittany was cordial, efficient. She brought salads in plastic containers from a gourmet market. She complimented the house while subtly pointing out its flaws. "The view is just breathtaking, Margaret. It's a shame the salt air is so destructive to the exterior paint." Or, "These original windows have so much character. Of course, the energy efficiency must be terrible." Daniel was in salesman mode. On Saturday afternoon, he herded us all into the SUV for a fun outing. The outing was a tour of Sunrise Glen. It was fine. Beige carpets, beige walls, beige furniture in the common areas. It smelled of sanitizer and steamed vegetables. Smiling residents moved slowly through the hallways. An activities board advertised bingo and sing-along Saturdays. A perfectly nice woman named Cheryl showed us a model unit. It was compact, modern, soulless. A window looked out onto a manicured courtyard with a fountain. "This is the deluxe one-bedroom," Cheryl chirped. "You'd have a full kitchenette, and of course, all meals are included in the dining hall. We have a very active shuttle service to downtown." Lily pulled my hand. "Grandma, where would you put your painting stuff?" She pointed to the small, dim alcove meant for a desk. "There?" My painting stuff. My easels, my tabouret stuffed with tubes of oil and acrylic, my jars of brushes, the Northlight window in my sunroom that was perfect for capturing the mercurial coastal light. It would all be gone, condensed into a hobby corner, a pastime. "I'm not sure, sweetheart," I whispered. Noah just held my other hand tighter. That night, after the kids were tucked into the guest room, the room that had been Daniel's, I couldn't sleep. I paced the living room, my fingers trailing over book spines, the rough texture of a seashell collection, the cool glass of a framed photograph of Frank, smiling and wind-blown on the deck. My heart was a trapped bird. I walked out onto the deck, the cold night air biting through my sweater. The ocean was a vast black rumble under a blanket of stars. Frank had proposed to me right here on this unfinished deck. We'd camped in the unfinished living room, listening to the waves. This wasn't just a house, it was my biography in wood and glass. I heard a murmur of voices from the kitchen window that was slightly ajar. Daniel and Brittany.
"Just being stubborn," Brittany's voice clipped. "She's not seen the big picture." "She needs time to adjust to the idea," Daniel replied, but he sounded weary, defeated. "We don't have time, Dan. The offer on the Seaforth place is contingent on us closing on this. We need her signature by the 28th. That's 3 weeks. If we lose the Seaforth property because she's feeling sentimental..." My breath caught. An offer? On another property? Contingent on my house? Brittany continued, her voice lower but no less urgent. "The equity here is our down payment on our dream home. The kids deserve that pool, that school district. We've been cramped in that townhouse for years. This is our chance. She'll be fine. She'll make friends. She'll be safer." I know. A pause. Then Daniel's voice, hard in a way I'd never heard before. "We might have to just move forward with the paperwork. Dr. Evans said her memory lapses are a concern. We have the power of attorney for a reason." I stumbled back from the window as if struck. Dr. Evans? My mild, forgetful moments, misplacing my reading glasses, forgetting a grocery item, had been pathologized, weaponized. And the power of attorney. A year ago, after a minor scare with my blood pressure, Daniel had suggested we set it up. "Just in case, Mom, so I can help if you're ever in the hospital." I'd signed, grateful for his foresight. I'd trusted him. Now, in the dark, with the ocean roaring its disapproval, I understood. The senior community wasn't the plan, it was the cover story. The real plan was to sell my house out under me, use my money to buy their dream home, and tuck me away somewhere convenient, using a legal document I'd signed in love to enforce my own erasure. The betrayal was so complete, so coldly financial, it left me numb. I wasn't a mother, I was a line item, a means to an end. The next morning, I was a ghost at my own breakfast table. I made pancakes for the grandchildren, smiled, nodded as Brittany chattered about the wonderful amenities at Sunrise Glen. Inside, a new hard thing was crystallizing, a resolve born not of heat, but of a deep permafrost cold. As they were leaving, Lily wrapped her arms around me. "I love you, Grandma. I'll help you pack your paints, okay?" "Thank you, my love," I said, my voice thick. Daniel hugged me, a brief, businesslike squeeze. "Think about it, Mom, for all of us." When their car disappeared, the silence of the house was deafening, but it was no longer a lonely silence. It was the quiet of a battlefield after the enemy's intentions have been revealed. I had 3 weeks until the 28th, 3 weeks to fight for my life. The first thing I did was call my friend, Eleanor. She was 10 years older than me, a retired family court judge with a mind like a steel trap and a heart of absolute gold. I told her everything, my voice breaking only once. "Oh, Margaret," she sighed, and I could hear the familiar click of her knitting needles in the background. "Listen to me. You need to see a lawyer. Not just any lawyer, someone who specializes in elder exploitation and real estate law. I'm sending you a name and number. You call them tomorrow. And in the meantime, you find that power of attorney document and every piece of paper related to this Sunrise Glen or any property they're looking at." "How do I do that?" I asked, feeling overwhelmed. "You start looking," she said simply. "Daniel is arrogant. He thinks you're a confused old woman. He'll have left a trail. Check his old room when he visits. Check the filing cabinet in your own office. He may have used your computer. Be a detective in your own home." After I hung up, I went straight to the small office Frank and I shared. The filing cabinet was mostly my domain: taxes, insurance, warranties for long-dead appliances. But in the back of the bottom drawer, under a pile of old manuals, I found a new, crisp folder. It wasn't mine. My hands trembled as I opened it. On top was a glossy brochure for a development called The Cliffs at Seaforth, a luxury community. Circled in red pen was a floor plan for a custom executive waterfront home. List price $1,850,000. Sticky noted to it was a handwritten calculation. Equity from Mom's house approximately $1.2 million. Down payment 60%. Remaining mortgage $650,000, monthly approximately $3,800, doable with dual income. My house, my $1.2 million? My heart hammered against my ribs. Beneath that was a printed email from Daniel to a realtor named Greg. The subject line, "Contingent offer, Carpenter Beach property." I skimmed it, the legalese swimming before my eyes, until one phrase locked into focus. "Offer contingent upon successful sale and transfer of title of 17 Ocean Vista Lane by October 28th. Purchaser, my client Daniel Carpenter, will execute all documents as purchaser holds power of attorney for current owner, Margaret Carpenter, and will execute all documents." He wasn't just planning to convince me, he was planning to do it without me if necessary. And then, at the bottom, the proof that turned my blood to ice. It was an invoice from a contractor, not for my house, for the Seaforth property. It was for a pre-construction consultation and survey. It was dated 2 months before. 2 months! They had been planning this for at least that long, while smiling at my dinner table, while accepting my birthday gifts for the children, while letting me believe we were a family. The invoice was numbered 33821 from Precision Coastal Builders for the amount of $2,500, dated August 12. It listed services rendered at Lot 17, The Cliffs at Seaforth, paid in full by credit card ending in 4491. Daniel's card. I sat on the floor of the office, the cold hardwood seeping through my pants. I held the invoice, this flimsy piece of paper that was so much heavier than stone. This was my evidence. This was the truth in black and white with a date and a dollar amount. They had spent money, a non-refundable deposit on the promise of my home. I didn't cry. The tears felt frozen somewhere deep inside. Instead, I did what Eleanor said. I became a detective. I took my smartphone, the one Daniel had insisted I get for safety, and I took photographs of every page, the brochure, the email, the invoice. I photographed them against the dated front page of the local newspaper I'd yet to throw away, proving the date. Then I carefully returned everything to the folder, exactly as I'd found it.
The next day, I called the lawyer Eleanor recommended. Her name was Anya Sharma. Her voice on the phone was calm, direct, without a trace of pity. I told her my story and mentioned the documents. "Can you come to my office tomorrow, Margaret?" she asked. "Bring the photos, and do not, under any circumstances, confront your son yet. Do not let him know you know. We need to move strategically." Going to the city felt like crossing into enemy territory. Anya Sharma's office was downtown in a glass tower that reflected a sky I felt disconnected from. She was younger than I expected, with intelligent eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She reviewed the photos on my phone, her expression grim. "This is a classic case of undue influence and fraudulent exploitation of a power of attorney," she said. "The POA is for your benefit, not his. Using it to sell your primary residence to enrich himself is a blatant violation. The fact that he's already made financial commitments based on the unlawful conversion of your property makes it even more egregious." She used words like petition to revoke, lis pendens to cloud the title and prevent sale, constructive trust to recover penny funds spent. It was a new language, the language of war, my war. "What do I do?" I asked, feeling small. "First, we revoke the power of attorney. I'll draft the revocation and you'll sign it here. We'll have it notarized and send it via certified mail to Daniel, to the Sunrise Glen facility, and to any financial institutions. Then we file a report with Adult Protective Services. It creates a record. Then we move to block any sale." "He's my son," I whispered, the pain finally breaking through the ice. Anya's gaze softened, just for a moment. "I know. And he's betting that will stop you. He's counting on your love, your guilt, your desire to keep the peace. That's his real power over you, not the legal document, the emotional one." She was right. The greatest obstacle wasn't the law, it was my own heart. The memory of his small hand in mine, his childhood laughter in these very rooms, the man I'd raised who was now a stranger plotting against me. I signed the revocation papers. The pen felt like it weighed 100 pounds. The certified letters went out the next day. The reaction was not slow in coming. 2 days later, Daniel's car came screeching into my driveway late in the afternoon. He didn't call ahead. He stormed up the deck steps, his face a mask of fury I had never seen. He didn't knock. He threw the door open. "What the hell is this, Mom?" he shouted, waving the envelope from Anya's office. "You revoked the POA? You hired a lawyer?" I was in the sunroom, pretending to sketch. I put my charcoal down slowly. "I did." "Why? Why would you do that, after everything we're trying to do for you?" Spittle flew from his lips. "Do you have any idea how embarrassing this is? Sunrise Glen called me asking for clarification. They think there's family dysfunction." "There is," I said quietly. He stared at me, his chest heaving. The mask of the concerned son was gone, completely stripped away. What was left was raw, thwarted ambition. "This is about that stupid house, isn't it? This shack. You're choosing a building over your own family? Over your grandchildren's future?" "I'm choosing my right to make my own decisions," I said, standing up. My knees protested, but I locked them. "I'm choosing not to be defrauded by my own son." The word defrauded hung in the air like a poison gas. His eyes widened, then narrowed. What are you talking about? I know about the cliffs at Seaforth, Daniel. I saw the invoice. Hashtag 33821, $2,500, lot 17. I recited the facts like a mantra, clinging to their solidity. He went very still. The color drained from his face, then rushed back in an angry flush. You went through my things? You left your plans in my filing cabinet. You were selling my life to buy your pool. His shock morphed into a sneer. Oh, so now you're a spy, a little detective? You're not competent to manage this asset, Mom. Look at you. You forget things. You repeat yourself. You live in the past. That money is doing nothing sitting in this old house. It should be helping your family, building a legacy for your grandchildren. By stealing it? My voice rose now, meeting his fury. It's not a nursing home, and it's not theft. It's common sense. You're being selfish and irrational, and clearly you're not thinking clearly. I should have Dr. Evans declare you incapacitated. Then we'll see who gets to make decisions. The threat landed like a physical blow. Incapacitated. Locked away not just in a condo, but in a legal designation that stripped me of all personhood. My own son was willing to have me declared insane to get my money. I took a step back, my hand finding the back of my chair for support. Get out. What? Get out of my house, now. He laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. Or what, you'll call the cops on your own son? Tell them the scary man is upsetting the confused old lady? Go ahead. That was his second mistake, underestimating me. I walked slowly to the landline phone on the wall, picked up the receiver, and dialed 911. I kept my eyes on him as I did it.
His arrogance faltered. "You're bluffing," the dispatcher answered. 911, what's your emergency? "My name is Margaret Carpenter," I said, my voice clear and steady. "I live at 17 Ocean Vista Lane. My son is in my home, trespassing after being asked to leave, and he is threatening me. I feel unsafe, and I would like an officer to come." Daniel's face was a picture of pure, unadulterated shock. "You bitch," he hissed, the words barely audible. I didn't flinch. "Please send someone." He stared at me for one more second, as if truly seeing me for the first time in decades. Then he turned and strode out, slamming the door so hard the window panes rattled. I hung up the phone before the dispatcher could ask more questions, my whole body trembling now that he was gone. I had done it. I had drawn the line in the sand, and I had stood on my side of it. The police didn't come, as I'd canceled the call, but the boundary had been established. The war was declared. The next few weeks were a grueling marathon of legal maneuvers and emotional attrition. Daniel, through his own expensive lawyer, fought back. He submitted a request for a competency evaluation based on concerns from Dr. Evans. Anya fought it, demanding an independent geriatric psychiatrist. The evaluation was humiliating, a battery of tests asking me the date, to remember words, to draw clocks. But I was clear, I was sharp. The evaluator found me fully capable. Daniel's petition was denied. Then he tried to argue the POA was valid and the sale was in my best interest. Anya unleashed the photographs of the Seaforth invoice, the contingency offer. She showed the pattern. The judge, a weary-looking woman, saw through it immediately. She granted the list pendants, freezing the title. She scheduled a hearing on the undue influence claim. Through it all, Brittany launched a campaign of emotional warfare. She sent texts laden with guilt. "The kids are asking why they can't see Grandma. You're breaking your son's heart. We only wanted what was best for everyone." Then, when I didn't respond, they turned nastier. "Enjoyed dying alone in that drafty old tomb." That one was from Daniel. The only light came from an unexpected place. My granddaughter, Lily, began calling me on her mom's old iPad. Her mother, Daniel's first wife, Kara, was a kind woman I'd always liked. We'd stayed cordial after the divorce. Kara had heard rumors from Noah, who'd overheard fights. She gave Lily the iPad to call me. "Grandma," said Lily one night, her face pixelated on the screen, "Daddy says you're being mean and keeping us from having a new house, but Mommy says a person's home is their castle and nobody can take it. Are you a queen in your castle?" I laughed, a real laugh that hurt my chest. "I'm trying to be, sweetie." She said, "I told Daddy that," she said solemnly. "He got really mad. I don't like it when he's mad. He and Brittany yell a lot now." My heart ached for her, for Noah, caught in the crossfire of adult greed. "I'm sorry, Lily. None of this is your fault. I love you so much." "I love you too, Grandma. Can I still come see your castle someday, even without a pool?" "Always," I promised, tears in my eyes. The hearing arrived. I had to face Daniel in court. He sat at the other table with his lawyer, refusing to look at me. He looked tired, older. The weight of his own actions was showing. Brittany was not there. Anya was brilliant. She laid out the timeline, the evidence, the blatant conflict of interest. She called the independent psychiatrist. She painted a picture not of a confused old woman, but of a capable one being systematically manipulated. Daniel's lawyer argued that I was isolationist and irrationally attached to an unsafe property. He tried to paint Daniel as a devoted son facing a difficult parent. Then it was Daniel's turn to take the stand. Under oath, his arrogance faltered. Anya's cross-examination was relentless. "Isn't it true, Mr. Carpenter, that you contracted for a custom home at the cliffs at Seaforth 2 months before you first discussed Sunrise Glen with your mother?" "It was a contingency plan." "A contingency plan reliant on the sale of her home, correct?" "Yes. And you intended to use your power of attorney to effect that sale, whether she agreed or not, correct?" He hesitated. "I believed it was in her best interest." "Her best interest, or the best interest of securing a $1.8 million waterfront property for your own family?" Anya's voice was like a scalpel. "Objection!" his lawyer barked. But the judge had heard enough. She overruled. "Answer the question, Mr. Carpenter." Daniel looked at me then, finally. His eyes held a storm of emotions: anger, shame, desperation. We needed the space for the kids. With her money," Anya stated, flatly. The hearing ended. The judge ruled from the bench. She found clear evidence of undue influence. She revoked her power of attorney permanently. She voided any contingent sales agreement related to my property. She ordered Daniel to pay my legal fees. She also, at Anya's suggestion, issued a restraining order preventing him from initiating any further legal actions regarding my competency or property without prior court approval. It was a total victory, and it felt like a death. Outside the courthouse, Daniel finally approached me. Anya stepped slightly in front of me, but I waved her back. He looked broken. "You ruined us, you know that?" he said, his voice hollow. "We lost the Seaforth deposit. We're stuck. All for a house you'll die in alone." I looked at my son, at the stranger he had become. The little boy was gone, buried under layers of ambition and entitlement. The love I felt was no longer warm. It was a sad, distant ache for what was lost. "I didn't ruin you, Daniel," I said, my voice tired but clear. "You did that when you decided my life was yours to spend. Goodbye." I turned and walked away with Anya. I didn't look back. The recovery was slow. The house felt different, its peace now hard-won, tinged with sorrow, but it was my peace. I changed the locks, I got a new doctor, I started attending a local seniors group Eleanor dragged me to, not for activities but for the solidarity of people who understood life's complexities. I began painting again, fiercely, not just gentle seascapes, but bold, turbulent pieces, storms over the water, gnarled driftwood, resilient flowers growing in salty cracks of rock. I channeled all the pain, the betrayal, the strength into my art. 6 months after the hearing, I received a letter from Kara, Lily and Noah's mom. She was seeking a modification of the custody agreement, citing the instability and stress in Daniel's home. She asked if I would be willing to provide a statement about the court case, about his character. She also gently asked if the children could visit me for a weekend without Daniel and Brittany. It was the first spark of unadulterated joy I'd felt in a year. I wrote the statement truthfully but without malice, and of course I said yes to the visit. They came on a bright, windy Saturday. Lily raced up the deck and threw her arms around me. Noah, shyer, pressed a smooth, gray stone into my hand. "For your collection," he mumbled. We built sand castles, we painted pictures, messy, wonderful finger paintings that we taped to my refrigerator. We ate popcorn and watched old movies. They slept in the room that was once their father's, and the house sang again with the innocent, precious noise of childhood. On Sunday evening, as Kara came to pick them up, Lily hugged me tight. "I'm glad you're the queen of your castle, Grandma." "Me too, sweetheart. Me too." After they left, the quiet settled again, but it was no longer lonely. It was full of their laughter, full of my own hard-won sovereignty, full of the ocean's eternal, reassuring roar. I never heard from Daniel or Brittany again. Rumors trickled through the grapevine that they'd sold their townhouse and moved to a smaller apartment, that they'd separated briefly, then reconciled. I didn't seek out the information. Their story was no longer mine. My story was here, in the salt-scrubbed windows, in the paint under my fingernails, in the stubborn roots of the hydrangeas Frank planted that still bloomed every summer. I had fought the most intimate of betrayals and found on the other side not just my home, but myself, a woman who was not just a mother, a grandmother, a widow, but a force. A queen in her castle, flawed, scarred, and finally unassailably free. If you've ever felt your kindness was taken for weakness, if you've heard the word burden whispered in the voice of someone you love, know this: your home, in your heart or under your feet, is worth fighting for. You are worth fighting for. Don't wait for permission to own your life. Take it back, one brave, shaking step at a time. And if you need a reminder of how it's done, come back here, subscribe, listen. You are not alone. Now tell me in the comments, have you ever had to set a boundary that broke your heart to save your soul? I read every one.